Everyone. Welcome to the special joint meeting of the Pasadena City Council and the Pasadena Unified School District Board of Education. I'd like to welcome the superintendent and the board to City Hall. And why don't we begin with calling the meeting to order, and we'll start with roll call.
Thank you, Mayor. Member Cahalan,
Here.
Member Fredericks,
Here.
Member Kenny,
Here.
Member Hawley,
Here.
Member Phelps is not here yet. Vice President Richardson Bailey,
Here.
and President Pomeroy.
Here.
There's a quorum of the Board of Education present. Councilmember Hampton, you unmuted, but we can't hear you.
Oh, it is a blessing to be here with our distinguished body of PUSD. I'm already feeling smarter.
Councilmember Kennedy has not yet joined. Councilmember Madison has not yet joined. Councilmember Masuda?
Here.
Councilmember Rivas is running a bit late. Councilmember Williams?
Here.
Vice Mayor Wilson?
Here.
Mayor Gordo?
Here.
There's a quorum of the city council present.
Thank you. Why don't we move on to the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'll ask our colleague, Dr. Pomeroy, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So as we know, this is our annual opportunity to meet together and talk about issues of common concern, opportunities to work together and inform the community how it is that we're working together, what our joint goals are. And today we have an agenda that covers everything from community safety to the joint use agreement to working together on early childhood development. And so I'd like to welcome the school board and the council and look forward to a good discussion. Dr. Pomeroy, did you want to make any comments?
Yes, I have had a number of opportunities to come and meet together, and I'm pleased that we're going to emphasize the joint in our joint meeting. And I hope in the future endeavors that you see represented on this agenda that we will still be in joint endeavor for our community.
Absolutely. Why don't we move on to the agenda item 2, and I'll turn it over to Dr. Pomeroy to introduce this matter. It involves PUSD programs and a highlight of those programs. Dr. Pomeroy?
Yes, there is so much to tell. It's a challenge just to put it into highlights. Before we begin, perhaps I can introduce our senior staff who are here. Our superintendent, Dr. Brian McDonald, is here. You could wave to the crowd. And don't let me miss anyone. Dr. Elizabeth Blanco, Chief Academic Officer. Dr. Leslie Barnes, Finance and Operations Officer. Are there others?
We also have our Director of Early Childhood Ed, Ree Hudson, rather.
Oh, yes, yes. And she's very attached to one of these agenda items as well. Have I missed anyone? Anyone behind your mask that I missed? So welcome everyone, and highlight of programs. I believe Dr. Blanco, are you taking the lead for this? Thank you.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor Gordo, City Council members, Board of Education, President Dr. Pomeroy, Superintendent McDonald, and members of the public. For those of you who have not had the pleasure to meet, I'm the Chief Academic Officer for Pasadena Unified, and I'm really am happy, pleased to be here to be able to share some of our programs. It's not all inclusive of every program that we have because we have many, but just wanted to give you some big picture highlights. Okay, just beginning with our mission statement that has been revised by our current Board of Education. I think some really key highlights are the deep love for learning, embracing cultural background of every student, globally valuing global education, our commitment to academic excellence, and with our new vision statement, it was really important to our board that we instill and inspire the joy of learning in every child every day. So our context of our district, we have 23 schools. We have a wide portfolio of grade spans to meet the needs of every parent and child in the community. We're also one of the employers of the community, and we have 2,400 certificated and classified employees. Our demographics for those who might be viewing from somewhere else, we have a diverse group of students, and our students come from gifted all the way to having many challenges, acquiring English, disabilities, and a variety of race and ethnicities. They're all welcome. We're one big happy family at Pasadena Unified. This is an overlap target group membership table, which I think is important for the community to realize that children come with many diverse needs. So you might cross over into a group of being an English learner, but also having a challenge and may need help with a disability, or be a foster youth, or socioeconomically disadvantaged. So, or you could be a gifted child. There's many groups, and sometimes when we talk about the groups, we don't take into consideration that it's might not be the only group that you're part of, and you might think you're being left out of a group when you are really being taken care of in a different way because you're falling into a different eligibility. So our context as a unified school district, we've been supporting students and families in recovering from the impacts of the pandemic. Our staff has been in ongoing discussion and reflection about diversity, equity, and inclusion throughout the pandemic. And our teachers are implementing research-based practices to effectively adjust classroom instruction. We refer to that as accelerated learning. So new supports are accelerated learning to really stabilize and adjust, shifting to address learning gaps in a different way. We've learned over years that remediation doesn't work. We've had a lot of remediation programs, and so it's teaching children at the grade level and the standards that they need to learn to move on, but also helping them make up for any learning that they may have missed. We've had a lot of opportunities for new in-person and expanded learning, online tutoring offerings, and then also increased summer offerings, which will continue this year. In the area of health and wellness, we have our robust mental health program, school-based mental health with lots of community partners. In addition, we're adding telehealth services for both physical and mental health that we're starting launching in a couple weeks for home health. We know a lot of families might not have been able to make it to a doctor during COVID, and they might have insurance barriers or other barriers that don't allow them to access mental health services. So that's one of the new ventures that we're on. The other is we have what we call the Uber for Health Services. That's Care Solace. They will help connect any family with making sure they find a provider regardless of their situation. We're continuing our DEI efforts through ethnic studies district-wide. We have a student think tank that is working and looking at our curriculum, helping us hear the student voice. They'll be presenting at our board meeting soon. And then we've had continued staff training and parent partnerships. One of the important things that's come out of our DEI efforts is that we look at all expenditures through a litmus test and to see how the decisions we're making or the way that we're spending resources impacts children, particularly children of color. So this is a snapshot of how accelerated learning has been working in the district. Our students are really resilient. At the start of the 21-22 school year, we can see that on grade levels, students are higher at rates of 18% for mathematics and 32% for reading. With these rates, the iReady platform that we use expects about an 8% growth. And we were able to show that we've grown 12% in mathematics and reaching for 30 and 9% in reading to reach to 41%. So additionally, the students who were falling far below grade level has decreased. So this comparison is a little different because this is showing growth in mathematics. We're using the iReady platform in mathematics longer than the reading platform. We just recently started using the reading platform when we were not going to give the state test, but you can see the diagnostic from COVID pre-closures due to the most recent diagnostic, and the rate of growth is significantly higher now because we've been using accelerated learning strategies as opposed to remediation. We've also had 24-hour tutoring in grades 3 and higher, and that's really proven to be an effective strategy in math. So our graduation rates continue to be higher than the state and county, so that's something that we're really proud of. We do have robust graduation requirements that are higher than most of our surrounding districts, and students are still doing very well. So our children have continued to experience academic growth through increased supports and high quality education programs. And as I mentioned, we offer a full portfolio of schools to students and promote diversity through an open enrollment system. One of our core beliefs is that if we are able to have our schools be socioeconomically diverse, that our students will achieve more. And we've worked hard to do that. And many of them, as you know, have changed over time due to our magnet grants. So our graduate profile continues to be the North Star for our school district. Our ultimate goal is self-directedness in learning and life. So these are just a few of the attributes of the graduate profile. And you can see on here that in creativity and innovation, one of the long partnerships we've had with the city is My Masterpieces. We've been able to continue that even through the pandemic and online over last year, and we've returned to in person. And then Open Stage really focuses on theater. We have STEAM magnets, arts magnets, and electives in all forms. Tech Equity has really helped us through the pandemic because we had a one-to-one device program prior to the pandemic. So we were more easily than other school districts able to shift into learning from home. College and career readiness, we have our Link Learning Academies and dual enrollment, lots of career technical education options and work-based learning, the graduate defense, and also robust ROTC program at Blair. And Healthy Mind and Body, we have what's called PUSD Thrive, social workers at most of our schools, interns that are supervised by our student wellness office. We've adopted a lot of new social emotional learning curriculum, farm to school, at many of our schools that provide resources for our families in terms of food, and then wellness centers, counseling and intervention, great athletics program. So we're really focusing on making sure that our children, we're looking at the whole child, right? What they need both academically and socially, emotionally, and health-wise. In terms of culturally competent citizens, many dual language programs, worldwide international baccalaureate program, and really encourage our students to be taking part in their community. We have Mentors for Life as well as many other mentoring programs, and we are developing leaders through our student think tank, ASB, variety of clubs. And we were ahead on ethnic studies before it was a state requirement, and that was very well supported by the community. So this is just a quick snapshot of our road map to high school in terms of dual language. We have Armenian, French, Mandarin, and Spanish. These are the schools listed that where the programs are housed. Our newest program will be launching next week, Webster Elementary School. That is a partnership with the Armenian Relief Society. So we already have 49 students registered and 11 students who are not from Armenian ethnicity. So there is a great interest. Our French program will be expanding to the middle school next year. In terms of magnet programs, we have been afforded back-to-back magnet grants, resulting in K-12 pathways, both in visual and performing arts, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So this is a snapshot of the schools where the magnet programs are. I think that there are great opportunities for students to be college and career ready, and many of the industries are state-of-the-art industry where students are able to leave and get a job in the community or be A through G ready and pursue college. They really do have that choice. So it's something that we're very proud of, and welcome you to visit anytime. In terms of expanded learning, we have our Learns program, and that's been in the district for many years. We've had additional funding come this year, and our Learns director is becoming the director of Learns and expanded learning opportunities. These are just some additional things that happen during the after school and before school programs, tutoring, and some online opportunities for students. There's enrichment offerings. One that children really like is driver's ed, because they don't have that in high schools anymore, and they can get their licenses. There's a lot of theme-based enrichment classes. In addition to our robust college and career program, they have expanded college and career opportunities where there might not be as many opportunities at our alternative education schools. And there is an entrepreneur program that's for our middle school students. And we have embarked upon community schools. Even though we were in the pandemic, we felt this was very important. We have been able to have both a state and federal grant. 7 of our schools are community schools, and what occurs through community schools is extended learning time, additional opportunities, more support for students in the summer and after school. Really a lot of family and community engagement, because we've been able to add a community advocate and a community liaison to every school that will connect the family and students with other partnerships throughout the community. So it's been very collaborative, and the practices in collaboration with Pacific Oaks and Collaborate Pasadena have been very strong, as well as many other community partners. So another area that we're proud to be expanding in is our early childhood education area. So I'm going to turn the mic over to Ms. Hudson.
Good evening, everyone. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our early childhood education program with PUSD. With individualized support, our programs develop the whole person by nurturing each child's physical, social, emotional, creative, linguistic, and cognitive growth. Okay, now thank you. These are our sites. We have 5 children's centers. Our children's centers serve families from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. It's mostly for working families. It's a subsidized program, but we do offer services for families that don't qualify for subsidy. We have 2 full-time DLIP Spanish programs We have one Mandarin program that has 2 classrooms there at Field. We have 2 inclusion programs, one at Altadena, one at Madison. And we have 8 part-time preschool programs to go along with our full-day preschool programs. Our part-day preschool programs are AM, PM programs. So we have a 3-hour program in the morning and a 3-hour program in the afternoon with different families to serve at each site. And those are for families that just want the preschool experience and don't necessarily need childcare. Currently, these are our enrollment numbers, which are low this year and last year, of course, due to COVID. But we're hoping that the numbers will increase by August. They are increasing this spring. We have a lot of parents that are interested in returning with the numbers lowering with COVID, so we're happy to hear that. We also have our Field Mandarin program, which is a self-supporting program. So there's no subsidy there. It's all run by families and parents. And these are our children's centers, which again, enrollment numbers are very low, but they are picking up. We have Jefferson, Cleveland, Longfellow, Washington, and Willard. And they are serving families within Pasadena and outside of Pasadena. But families are aware that their enrollment in our preschool programs doesn't necessarily guarantee a spot in PUSD. However, most of them do end up getting enrolled. So we're happy about that. And so Dr. Blanco mentioned a little bit about our universal preschool and TK program expansion under the umbrella of UPK, which is the P3 program that CD is working toward implementing. So beginning next year, 22-23, we'll have our first year of the new expanded TK program. And that expanded TK program will serve TK students for 9 hours a day. 6 hours will be in the classroom, and then 3 hours are the extended learning opportunity programs, which would be before and after school care. And there is, oh, okay, that's okay. I was going to talk more about TK. There is a timeline, and it goes by birth dates. So by 2025, it should be fully implemented. Thank you. And these are the our department uses. Recently, I've been honored to join the task force, City of Pasadena, on early childhood. We work with the Office of the Young Child. We work with the Pasadena Directors Alliance, which consists of directors throughout this community, private preschools, and other subsidy programs throughout Pasadena, and we meet at least once a week. So that's been very helpful. I'm also working with Carla Edgewood with the Office of the Young Child, reviewing the EDI results, making sure again that we can meet all the needs of the community. I'm also a part of the LA Child Care Planning Committee because I think it's good to collaborate with LA Unified to let each other know what we're doing, and they offer a lot of support. Other LEAs that we work closely with are Glendale Unified School District, Culver City Unified School District, Santa Monica Malibu School District, and LACO, especially the CPIM professional development, which offers our teachers professional development on an ongoing basis. And that's it for early childhood, unless there are any questions.
Yes, I believe we can take questions from our colleagues or even from each other at this point. Thank you for your presentation, both of you. Thank you so much. Are there questions?
So Mr. Masuda followed by Mr. Wilson.
Thank you.
Gene, go ahead.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for the report. Am I on right now?
Yes.
Okay. One question. You talked about the internships at Rose High School. What kind of internships are they?
There's a variety of internships depending on which academy the students are in. So if there would be like arts and entertainment, then it would be like a media internship. There's various partners throughout the city, depending on what the student's interest is. So lots of different offices or businesses have given our students opportunities to work during the summer or work-based experience during the school year.
And my last question is that you mentioned that the early child enrollments are low. Is it primarily the pandemic that's making those numbers low?
Yes, I think a lot of parents have had maybe fear of putting their children in settings where there's lots of other children or adults during COVID, but the enrollment is coming back up.
Good. Thank you very much. Thank you for the report.
Thank you. Ms. Kenny?
Good evening, everyone. I just kind of wanted to give a quick shout out for the International Baccalaureate program, which is kind of the original magnet program serving K-12, about 1,300 students, with a primary years program at Willard, middle years program for 6th to 10th grade at Blair, and then 2 different diploma programs for 11th through 12th grade. And I also just wanted to also mention the Math Academy, which is another popular program that we have. Thanks.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Wilson.
Thank you so much for the report. It said a few questions. I was curious, in terms of the students coming back from the classroom, are some students still learning remotely, or are they all in the classroom at this point?
So we do have the CIS Academy, which has about 400 students enrolled right now, K-12. So some students have elected to stay remote at this time.
And how many students, I'm not familiar specifically with that program, how many students were kind of traditionally in that program versus, or was it put up just because of COVID?
It was traditionally a high school program and sometimes middle school for alternative education reasons. So I would say the enrollment would be closer to 150 or 200 in the past.
So maybe a couple hundred are still doing distance learning. Are you working, trying to bring them back in the classroom, or do you feel like it's
We did have
sufficient?
some students return when the vaccination age changed. And then we had some students that decided that they wanted to go back to distance learning even after. So there's been movement in and out of the program.
Is the sense that some students just learn better maybe, or is it a sense of the people don't feel comfortable returning to classroom? What do you think is still driving the fact that a couple hundred maybe are there who wouldn't have been otherwise?
I think the majority of younger children enrolled because of concerns with COVID. In terms of older children, it is an alternative education setting where for a variety of reasons, children pick to learn in a different way. We've had students that have graduated from CIS that have gone to Harvard. So it's just different reasons in people's lives why they might be in an industry where they are working on work permits and want to attend that type of alternative education.
Do you measure their academic performance of that group as a cohort?
We measure their performance the same way that I showed you on the iReady system, but we can see their performance separated by school.
And how are they, I mean, are they keeping up? I guess I don't know enough. I'm just curious whether they're able to maintain the academic standards that are consistent with school.
They're able to do that, but in an independent study program, there has to be a strong, committed adult to help the student be successful, because it is independent study and the requirements are for FaceTime with an actual teacher are much less. And that's really driven by the ed code. And so that is the model that the state gave us to use as an alternative during the pandemic.
Okay. And then Kim mentioned, I was curious whether the Math Academy was still going along, and I heard her call it out. So I assume that is.
Yes, Math
still
Academy is doing great too.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
President Pomeroy, in the queue is Councilmember Hampton, followed by Board Member Fredericks, followed by Board Member Cahalan.
You know, I have a couple questions, so I could go after Board Member Fredericks and Board Member Taylor, if that's fine. I'm just not getting good reception right now where I am, so just need a couple.
Hello, can you hear me? Well, thank you so much for hosting City of Pasadena. It's great to have this in-person meeting. I want to ask about my own district. So I have two girls, one's a sixth grader at, by the way, there's a typo. Our middle school, Washington, is now called Octavia E. Butler, which my daughter goes to. And my other daughter, who's 14, went to Math Academy, and she actually went on to early entrance program at Cal State LA. So my kids are doing well in district. The question is, during the pandemic, schools were closed. I had to pick a school for my sixth grader without going and touring the school. We were lucky we got to good school. But are we now open for tours? If people, prospective families are interested, can they go see the preschools and all the elementary, middle, and high schools now?
So we are open for tours with some restrictions that we've asked that there be a mutual agreement with the teacher and the principal before going into their classroom, and that we limit to 4 parents at a time in a classroom. And, you know, not 4 parents on the tour, but just making sure that we really are being respectful of the educators and the students in the classroom. But we know it's very important that our parents and community get to see what our schools are like in person. So yes, we're open for tours with accommodations and modifications. And thank you for bringing up the name change. I had that in my notes and I missed that.
I don't have questions. I just wanted to supply some additional information for Councilmember Wilson, because I just happened to tour CIS 2 weeks ago. And former board president Larry Torres, as you may remember, is now the principal there. So he and I had a large chat about the current set of conditions there. Interestingly, they are still getting applications for transfer into CIS, and he says that's for a wide variety of reasons. It may be that a parent has been uncomfortable about changing health guidance or whatever, but also he says, remarkably, there's a very strong sibling interest at CIS growing amongst the parents there. So for the people that have opted into the program, and for, as Dr. Blanca pointed out, some kids really just do better in an independent study environment, especially if they have the supports at home. We may actually see a bunch of that enrollment at CIS sustained next year. That's going to be a tricky part for our district administration, because measuring how many teachers we're going to have and what sites they're going to be at is going to be hard when this is really an evolving situation, and we won't know for sure, of course, how many people are going to stay at the site until they show up in August or don't. So, but if you'd like to know more, I can put you in touch with Larry.
And Jennifer Holly, I believe you are the next.
Thank you. I just wanted to give a shout out to the junior ROTC program at Blair, which is exceptional. And my daughter is in that. And the sergeant is fantastic. And they do all types of events around the city. And it's just phenomenal. So I just wanted to give that shout out. Thank you.
That's very good. And Dr. McDonald, did you want to add something?
Initially, yes. I wanted to point out that our enrollment at CIS is over 400. We have, I don't know, somewhere around 200 or so elementary age students. And those families seem to enjoy the program. Like Dr. Blanco mentioned, we do have a dedicated teacher for every grade level at the elementary level. And, you know, I think this offers an opportunity also for the parents that are part of the robust homeschooling community. So we're hoping that by offering this service to our families and community, that will have more people enrolling their kids in this program. And like Mr. Cahalan said, it's really going to be tricky because we don't know next year how many families will put their kids back into the regular program. But we are planning to keep, I think, around about 3 to 5 teachers just in case. And I also want to point out that the CIS program is an excellent program. My daughter is a student at CIS, and she's chosen not to go back to a comprehensive high school because of the quality of the program at CIS.
And so, Mr. Mayor, if I may, before we leave this topic, I'm wondering how many people here have ever served as principal for a day in the PEF program? I see one. I see hands. You were principal for a day. So I would say, and
I just did the Read Across America as well.
oh, but that's good too.
Last week, Longfellow.
So when it becomes more possible, the best way to get a look at our schools and get the feeling of our schools is to make the visit when you can. So let us hope that time is coming when we can invite you to make a visit in person. I think that concludes our.
I think we still have Mr. Hampton, and then I've got just a couple of questions. Mr. Hampton?
Councilmember Hampton, are you there?
I know he was having problems with.
He was having some connection.
I am. Can you guys hear me?
We can. You can go ahead.
First and foremost, I want to say thank you to PUSD for the presentation about the programs and initiatives that they are setting forth and making sure that our young people have the best education that they possibly can. What are the most popular initiatives or programs that you guys host over at PUSD?
Well, there's many options, and I think it depends on, the individual.
Or based on enrollment?
On enrollment?
Or interest. I mean, not everyone could get into a dual immersion program. But is there a big interest for that, or is there big interest for the math program? Is it this, I just want to know, based on your information and data that you've received on applications, I understand that everybody can't get into every program that they want to be in, but what has gotten the biggest interest?
Well, I think, I'll start with high schools. Every high school is unique based on, the configuration and what they offer. So Blair having the 6 through 12, international baccalaureate program has a high interest for a certain, population. Muir High School is a dual college enrollment. Students can leave with enough credits to have an AA. Marshall tends to focus on particularly advanced placement classes, and PHS is a robust, comprehensive high school with a lot of community
I appreciate
support.
that. No need to go into depth in all the programs. I'm very familiar with all of those. I was just wondering what is received the highest interest. If you don't have that data, that's fine. You could just tell me you don't have that data, or if you could bring it back at a later time.
We could look at it by student interest and get you a more concrete data-based answer.
Because the reason I'm asking this question is that there's so many programs at BUSD, and and maybe it would. I like going to restaurants that have a lot of things on the menu, right? And I always order pancakes. Doesn't make a difference. I'm just gonna order pancakes because I know that's what I want. I'm pretty sure that maybe the top seller in the whole entire restaurant is just their pancakes. Maybe PUSD should really kind of focus on what is the success, and just say. But of course, I'm not a school board member. I was just thinking, if there was a way that we knew what was your success as a city's standpoint, let's see how we can support those successes and those initiatives that PUSD is moving in that direction or whatnot. I just want to know how we can support the initiatives that will garner you the most amount of enrollment and most amount of interest and most beneficial to our young people in Pasadena area. That's it. So if you could give me that information, that would really be helpful, just so I can know as a policymaker for the city of Pasadena to make sure that we do things that are supportive of those programs that you need to try to, I guess, maybe figure out more space for or invest more into. Not saying that no other programs didn't get any investments, but I'm just thinking if you have programs that you're turning people away, and maybe that's the reason why they decided not to come to USD. Let's figure out how to, as a city and as collectively, jointly, let's figure out how to enhance those programs so that we can offer those to the families that are looking for that.
We are in the process of.
My next question is.
Oh, sorry, I was going to finish answering that one. We're in the process of
No,
going
totally fine.
through a return on investment project, and so we'll be able to share that data with you, looking at all of our initiatives. I think that's what you're asking for.
Absolutely, thank you. And then, how is the PCC partnership going over at John Muir High School? How many students are graduating with college credits?
All of the students that attend MIR are enrolled as freshmen into a college course. So they're all graduating, with some college credit, but as I mentioned, that some of them can achieve almost, the credits to have an AA or have an AA degree by the time they leave. I could get you that exact number as well.
That would be great to have as well, because I think that program is amazing and it's something that a lot of people still don't really understand exactly how it works. And more information that I have to share with my residents and young people that are thinking about, or parents that are thinking about sending their kids to Muir or any of PUSD high schools, it's helpful for me to have that. And then I appreciate you mentioning, the career ready piece. I think that's important because not every student, we have to recognize not every student is going to go to a four-year university when they graduated. So thank you so much. And then my big question is the social emotional, which you brought up in the presentation. Are our teachers and staff trained in recognizing maybe things that they've seen in students, whether they be online or whether they're in person? They see that the student is down, or I just want to know, are our teachers trained to notice these type of things, to ask and reach out to a student before it turns into something?
Yeah, we're working on training more in that area. We also have a new program that's called Troop Heartbeat, and the students can go into the class and log in and let the teacher know how they're feeling. And so the teacher's getting a read on how the class is doing that day. So that's been something that's been really effective for letting them know, before they start their lessons, how, the students might be feeling. We have seen a rise in social emotional needs of children, teachers, and families, and that's why we've engaged in the two programs or areas that I mentioned with Lease. We started with our employees being able to reach out and get the help or support they needed outside the school district, and we're moving into letting students also participate in that, and then having the direct services online through Hazel Health. Every family will have those services available at school, and at physical and social emotional health available at home, and then our 7 community schools are piloting the services at school.
Well, that's awesome, Mom. That's really wonderful to hear. So I want to ask a question because this literally just happened today, and I'm just trying to understand how the big approach is looked at, right? At PHS today there was a gun scare, So the individuals involved with that is PUSD, well, it sounds like there may have been some sort of altercation or maybe a fight, or I'm not sure exactly how it went down, but the individuals that were involved in that, is PUSD, is there a social emotional person talking to those individuals now? And then the other students that are around that, are we also, I mean, not we, but is PUSD or staff from PUSD talking to those students to see how they're feeling with everything that's going on? Having police department on your school site is probably not the greatest feeling. So I just want to know, like in a big picture, with an issue like that, how does PUSD handle it?
I wonder if Dr. McDonald would speak about that, please.
Yes, Councilmember Hampton. So we don't have all of the facts at the moment. What we do know is that there was a scare. It wasn't substantiated, the allegation that was made. And so we're still gathering information, but we have a number of central offices staff members that went over to PHS to provide support. And so, once we investigate and find out what exactly happened, then we'll be able to provide the school the support it needs, and specifically the students. So at the moment, we don't have all the facts, so it's hard for me to respond to the question that you're asking. But we do have plenty of support from our child welfare and attendance department to support school sites, to support students with their social emotional needs.
I want to just remind us, we've allocated 30 minutes for this matter, and we're going on close to an hour, and we still have 3 more items and then a closed session. So I just want to make sure we're conscious of that. We have public, okay. Mr. Hampton, was that it? Oh, did we lose him?
Mayor Gordo, perhaps it's time to conclude.
Yeah, why don't we, I did have one question related to the graduation rate. Slide 10 of your presentation, Dr. Blanco. I believe it's 84% graduation rate. 84% of, what's the measure? Incoming seniors or?
So this is the measure of cohorted students,
Mhm.
so students that are with us for the whole 4 years.
For the whole 4 years. And so you take the initial measure from the incoming freshman class, and then with that 84. So, okay, that's good to hear. I wasn't sure if that was the case, freshmen versus seniors.
We do look at the data in different ways,
Mhm.
but this is a cohort data.
Great. I think with that, we have one public comment, and then we can move on to the next matter.
Thank you, Mayor. In terms of correspondence received for item 2, the city clerk's office received one letter expressing concerns with PUSD district staff not recognizing Blair High School's Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps program in their PowerPoint presentation. So that letter was posted online, distributed, and is part of the record for the item. We do have one speaker, who is Gabriel Lizardo, for item 2. Before we call him in, I would just want to say that pursuant to the Brown Act, that this Brown Act special meeting requirements, public comment is limited to items on this special meeting agenda. Also related to public comment, for any item, members of the public shall direct comments to the body as a whole, not to staff, individual members of the body, or the public. Any person making personal, impertinent, or slanderous remarks about members of the body, staff, or the public, or who shall become boisterous or threatening or personally abusive of the body, staff, or members of the public shall be asked by the mayor, the president, to cease and desist such activity, and may be requested or required to leave the meeting in the event the behavior continues to disrupt the meeting proceedings. And with that, we will bring in Gabriel Lizardo.
Hello, thank you. Can you hear me?
We can. 1 minute, 30 seconds. I'll ring a bell when you have 30 seconds left.
Thank you, Mr. Johnsky. Good afternoon. Well, I appreciate and commend the programs and progress made by PUSD in these trying times. We must not just celebrate the highlights, but also focus on remedying the gross and systemic inequities of the district. Latinos represent almost 60% of the enrollment in PUSD. However, this majority of students is left without a voice in the Board of Education, none of whom are Latino, despite a quarter of the eligible voters in PUSD being Latino. To examine the consequences of this vacuum of representation, we don't need to look any further than the district's own statistics, which consistently show that Latino students and the Latino community as a whole is being failed by a lack of representative leadership for their community. Latinos are the demographic group with the lowest graduation rate for the past 3 years, running below the district average, below the LA County average, and below the California state average. Over 60% of Latino students are not reading at or above their grade level. That contrasts with almost 75% of white students who are reading at or above their grade level. And this, additionally, 70% of Latino students are not meeting grade level standards in math. Again, contrast that with 66% of white students who are meeting grade level standards in math. The problem I'm trying to get at here is that the redistricting efforts done by the Pasadena Unified School District were grossly inadequate to the Latino community, Black community, and the Armenian community, where no public input was really sourced from these groups, yet the maps were put forward as if they had received large portions of support from all these communities. If we're truly for embracing the cultural background of every student and be, as was stated earlier, one big happy family for PUSD, then we need to start with representation on the Board of Education and the groups that are being left out.
Mr. Lizardo, your time has expired.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you. That completes public comment on this item. The microphones are not working. Yours isn't at all. We're having a little bit of
Mr. Kennedy's got his hand up. Mr. Kennedy? And then we'll move on to the next item.
President Pomeroy and Mayor Gordo, thank you for the opportunity to briefly address two matters. One, I'd just simply like to commend the young man who just spoke, Gabo Lizardo. I think that someone needs to respond to his line of questioning, the facts that he has provided. And my assumption is that he's a resident of the city of Pasadena. And I, as one member of the council, think that there's great legitimacy in the concerns that he's raised. And we all know, particularly having gone through the public schools in Pasadena, that reading is fundamental to learning. So the first question to any member of the council or PUSD is, are you willing to sit down with Mr. Lizardo, have a more expansive discussion about the issues he's addressed, and then act upon them? And that could be for Dr. Brian McDonald as well.
If I may, Councilmember Kennedy, I'd be happy to sit down and meet with Mr. Lizardo to address the matters related to, for example, reading, some of those issues that he surfaced. As far as redistricting, I don't think that would be my place to address that. I think I'd leave that to the board president, but I'd be more than happy to meet with him.
I greatly appreciate the response of Dr. McDonald, as always. And I would say to Mr. Lizardo that you have an entree now. Dr. McDonald has provided that. And then the last comment I would like to make is one of commending the PUSD board trustees and also Dr. McDonald and the principal at Blair High School. When we were kids, Mr. Gordo and myself, but certainly others who went through PUSD, each high school, each then high school had its own junior ROTC. I want to make sure that we, whether it's the city of Pasadena in conjunction with PUSD or PUSD singularly, keep the junior ROTC program at Blair High School as strong as possible. It is critically important. Those folks have been helping me for the past 9 years in elected office in simply coming to my community meetings and posting colors and leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. But I can say this about all of the students who work with First Sergeant Ben Hicks, who is a senior Army instructor of the Blair High School Army Junior ROTC program, that we have no problems with educational attainment. These are the top students because they are engaged. And I don't want to comment about whether these programs need to be at all of the high schools. For now, commitment needs to be that we will keep this one program robust and will not see that it falls on a cutting block somewhere or a sword somewhere. So again, I want to thank the PUSD and its leadership for its strong support for the Blair High School Junior ROTC program. Honor Guard.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Kelly.
you, Mayor, and thank you, President Elizabeth Pomeroy.
So the next item we have we've also allocated 30 minutes to that matter. And so I hope we do a better job of sticking to that 30 minutes. Otherwise, we'll be here well beyond our hard stop of 6 p.m. So we have an hour left before we go into the council's closed session. So the next matter is item 3, community safety intervention programs for youth, presented by the city manager and Brenda Harvey Williams.
Oh, you wondering? Sorry.
Brenda?
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. Good afternoon, Mayor, Council, School Board members, President Pomeroy. I'm pleased to present to you a listing of Pasadena's safety intervention programs for youth. I will show you the entire list and highlight a few of the programs in more depth. So to begin, currently Pasadena budgets over $8 million over about 29 programs for youth. These programs help keep our young people busy and thereby not available to engage in non-positive behavior. For ease of discussion and illustration, we've divided these programs into 4 categories, and I will go through each of those categories. The first
Excuse me, Brenda, Mayor, is there a reason why we can barely hear Brenda?
Is this better?
Yes.
Okay. New microphone. Let me just begin again then. Currently, Pasadena budgets over $8 million for about 29 programs for youth. These programs keep our young people busy and therefore not available to engage in non-positive behavior. For ease of discussion and illustration, we've divided these programs into 4 categories. The first is children and youth engagement. The second, job training and career exploration. Third, intervention and prevention programs. And finally, the first area of programs I'd like to highlight are children and youth engagement. You see, we have about 12 programs that fall into that category. Here, various city departments provide a number of activities for young people during after-school hours, school breaks, and summer vacations. These range from our sports leagues for elementary and middle school students. Our sports leagues that we offer are flag football, soccer, volleyball, and basketball. Pre-COVID, we had nearly 2,000 kids playing soccer with us, and that was just in our soccer program. Now that we're sort of coming out of COVID, our soccer and basketball seasons are currently underway. Soccer began this past Saturday with 600 students playing on 52 teams. Omicron did delay the beginning of our winter basketball, but we currently have 235 kids playing on 28 teams. In addition, we operate a boxing program out of Villa Park, and we are very proud that one of our participants qualified for the Olympic trials for the 2020 Summer Games. And she, emphasis she, was one bet away from making the Olympic team. We are also excited to offer a fun summer camp experience for children. Again, pre-COVID, we operated 6 camps and we had about 800 participants. We will again offer 6 camps this coming summer, but at a slightly reduced capacity. Summer camp not only offers the opportunity for children to have a fun experience throughout their day and childcare for their parents, but it also offers many teens the opportunity to secure their first job as camp counselors, as we take them for camp counselors as young as 14. And I would like to give a plug right now that we are currently recruiting for recreation leaders for summer hire. So if you have any young people in your house over the age of 14, please have them go to cityofpasadena.net, check out our job site. We have jobs for them. We have openings. Please apply. End of shameless plug. We also have reduced the participation fees for most of our recreation programming to $10. That's $10 per week for summer camp, or $10 to participate in one of our youth sports leagues. Our libraries also offer robust programs for young people, from story times, book clubs, and homework assistance. And I would like to say that we do look forward to the opportunity to learn how we can better advertise our program with PUSD students, who are our target participants. Next slide, please. Moving on to our second area of programs, that would be job training and career exploration. I'd like to highlight a couple of these programs, the first being our city's MASH program, which is a 2-year job training program. Is for both teens and adults. And at the conclusion of the 2 years, many of these participants are able to secure employment with the city or in the private sector. Between our Rose intern program and the youth ambassadors, we employ 75 young people between the ages of 14 and 24 for the Rose program, or high school students within Pasadena in our Pasadena Ambassadors program. And these are year-round paid positions that provide both job training, skills, and again, oftentimes they're that first job for many of the participants in our programs. We also have programs that expose young people to a particular career through for example, our fire and paramedics program. Finally, the library provides numerous classes on its YouTube channel with information on building trades and apprenticeships, and these are one-day or one-time trainings. And if we could move to the next slide, please. Next is our intervention programs. The item I'd like to highlight here is our Community and Gang Intervention Services program. This is a boots-on-the-ground operation that provides gang intervention services that engages gang members and gang-associated youth to interrupt gang and gun violence. The gang intervention team performs the following. They help dispel rumors that would spark retaliation. They provide mediation and conflict resolution with disputing known gang or community members. They conduct outreach in gang impacted areas such as parks and known gang hangouts and hotspots. And they target gang involved individuals to provide referrals and resources to provide an alternative to the gang lifestyle. And I would like to point out that the members of our intervention team are here with us today should there be any questions for them. And finally, I'd like to highlight our community security. These 3 programs help create a safer community to be enjoyed by all of our residents and visitors. These include our graffiti abatement program, through which we remove graffiti and gang-related tagging generally within 24 hours. And this is a program that the city is quite proud of, and I call it one of our all-star programs because of its rapid deployment. And we also have the installation of security cameras in parks and community centers. Currently, we have security cameras installed on the buildings in the following parks: Robinson Villa, Central Park, and La Pintoresca Park at our Teen Education Center. Later this year, installations will be completed at the Jackie Robinson Community Center, Robinson Park in the park area, La Pintoresca Park also in the park area, as well as Villa Park in the park area. Included in your packet for today's meeting is a matrix with more details of our 29 programs. I would like to conclude right here and am open to respond to any questions that you may have.
Thank you. The city clerk tells me that we have a number of cards. How many public speaker cards?
I believe it's around 15.
Why don't we go to Ms. Kinney first, and then we'll go to the public commenters.
Sorry, you said to go now?
Yes.
Yes, Ms. Kinney.
Great, thanks. I just wondered if I could get a little more information about, I'm going to call it ASAP, the After School Adventures Program. For instance, is there an approximate number of students served? And I just wanted to know if you could maybe explain the fee structure. I think there's a fee, but I wondered if we waive it for some students or if there's a sliding scale, and then whether that cost that was on the spreadsheet you mentioned reflected the fees that come in, or if that was on top of the fees.
ASAP is our After School Adventures program, and we operate on 11 elementary school campuses. It's a program that we offer similar to your Learns, but different. Our program, in non-COVID times, we would have up to 800 enrolled in our program. This year, and I apologize, I don't have the number on me of the number of enrollees we have. I am very proud and thankful that we were able to operate this program during COVID when the schools weren't open. We were able to jointly partner with UPUSD and provide some care for children that parents otherwise would not have had. Right now, as I mentioned in my presentation, we have a lower participation fee for youth in all of our programs. So for right now, we are charging $30 per quarter for our after school, our ASAP fee. And pre-COVID, we had 2 different fees that we charged. Some of the fees were by the week and some were by the semester. But right now, as I mentioned, it's $30 per quarter. And the fees, the money listed in the matrix are the expenses. That's what the cost of the program, what the city is paying in terms of labor, materials, and supplies. So those are not fees that we collect. That's simply the expenses for the program.
So the fees cover part of that expense? Is that? True.
They do, but as you can imagine, not all of it. The city's general fund pays for the rest of the program.
And then are there opportunities for students to get scholarships or to pay a reduced fee? Is that something you guys do?
Absolutely. We have a program called Passport to Fun, where we do provide a scholarship for students whose family income based on HUD guidelines is either low or very low. We can provide a scholarship for up to 50% of our fee, which, as I mentioned, right now is $30 per quarter. And I would like to also add that we do provide scholarships for all of our recreation programming for families that qualify.
Great, thank you so much.
We'll turn to public comment. Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Tina? Did you?
I will be mercifully short. I wonder if there's some duplication of programs between Pusd and the city of Pasadena, and I hope that we can go beyond symbolically coming together and maybe have joint collaborative integrated programs between the two agencies. So I'm not sure who the right person is to start that going. Maybe it's you. So I just want to throw that out there, and I hope that we will be following up with each other. Thank you.
We'd be glad to have that discussion. Certainly, if you see things on the matrix that you think may be duplicative of anything that you're doing, or we could just sit down with whomever the superintendent might identify and go through your programs and ours and make sure, should we be combining them into one, or is there a way to have a bigger impact by changing one or the other? Absolutely willing to have that discussion at any time.
An opportunity to do that will be when we sit down to talk about measures I and J. There's an oversight component to that piece. I intend to have the city manager, the superintendent, the vice mayor, and the president and vice president have an initial discussion on how we go about that, and then bring it back to the council and the school board for a discussion. I think it would be appropriate at that point to maybe talk about joint programs that we can bring together as we're talking about resources that are on the table. Okay, Mr. Kennedy, keeping in mind we have 15 cards.
I'll be very quick, Mayor. Thank you for the opportunity. Dr. McDonald, does the PUSD have a similar employment program like the city of Pasadena's Summer Rose?
Like Dr. Blanco mentioned earlier, we do partner with certain companies in the community to offer internship opportunities for our students, but I'm not aware of us having a program per se, like the Summer Rose program that pays students during the summer.
May I at least invite the opportunity for further dialogue beyond this meeting to see if in fact it is possible for PUSD to mirror our Summer Rose program, particularly when inflation and the economy is not doing as well as we would like, and young people need a way to work and garner skills that possibly will take them through a lifetime. So that's my comment, Mayor.
Thank you.
I'm hoping Dr. McDonald or his designee will be able to at least have conversations with Brenda and Lola and other staff about that program.
Oh, Ms. Williams?
Just a quick question about the gang intervention programs, and I'm really happy that everyone is here to talk about them. These are really important programs, just given what we've been seeing in the city. So I did want to hear from the people who are providing the programs. How have they changed over the years, and what gaps do you see in the funding that we could do a better job or be more effective in the community? What are the needs that are not being fulfilled? Would just like to understand that. We can also further discuss that during budget season. Thanks.
Mr. Pickens?
Do you want to give him the?
Councilmember Williams, that's a great question. So the main thing, there's a lot of changes because number one is social media. So social media has changed the dynamics in the gang intervention world, but also um, substance abuse. And so it has never been popular for gang members and youth to have substance abuse issues. They're normally we're on the other side of it, meaning being the providers. So that becomes a challenge. But for the city and what we can do city-wise is sustainability, more comprehensive, um, well thought out plans to address the root causes of violence. What we do is we interrupt violence, immediate violence. But after the interruption is done, when we're asking somebody to put down a gun to pick up a shovel, I mean, Father Great Boyle's motto in Homeboy is nothing stops a bullet like a job. But when we actually put down a gun and pick up a shovel and we're replacing that gun, the thing is that people say, well, get them jobs, get them jobs, get them jobs, where jobs are not, is one piece of it. It's, we can get you on a job, but can you stay on the job? And that's where the substance abuse. So there are many factors that we can talk about over a period of time. But the media thing is right now, like the city right now, you know, we're having a little bit of some quiet periods. Those quiet periods, and I'm going to say this publicly because I think people don't really know this. Those quiet periods don't come without a cost. We're working to keep it quiet. We don't work very hard when the shootings are happening. We work hard now to make sure that the next shooting doesn't happen. So just so you all can, this is not the time to educate you all on this stuff, but just want to give you a little bit of context to understand that the quiet periods are not quiet. When you have some of the violence that we've had in most cities, that's ongoing violence. Retaliation just keeps going, keep going. But we've had some shootings that we haven't had retaliation from. Those are little things that everyone don't pay attention to, but those are victories for us.
Thank you. Ms. Kurtz?
Just add to that, thank you, Ricky, and just add to that the matrix that you heard this evening was originally done for our Public Safety Committee, and it was for exactly the purpose, Councilmember Williams, that you just suggested. They've had one discussion of it. We've offered some ideas what we think are the gaps at staff level and where we should address that in the budget, but it's coming back for a second and possibly a third discussion there. So that's exactly what we wanted to do with this information.
Thank you. So public comment, how many cards?
Still 15.
Okay.
So for item 3, the city clerk's office received 3 letters of correspondence advocating for the language of gang intervention and prevention to be changed to, quote, violence interrupters, and made various inquiries related to the contracted services of each, quote, strategy team member working in the community, expressing concerns with the formation of the Pasadena Activities League, PAL program, and or providing comments on utilizing the city's existing fiber infrastructure. Those comments were posted online, distributed, and are part of the record for the item. So in terms of speakers, Helena Hill is not in the meeting. We'll move on to Nicole King, not in the meeting. Alan Shea, not in the meeting. So we have Michael Williams, followed by Brittany Pollock, followed by Julia R. We'll ask
Mr. Williams?
Mr. Williams, you have 1:30. I'll ring a bell when it's 30 seconds left. If you can turn off your camera too, please. Thank you. Go ahead.
I only have a few questions about allocation of the resources for these programs. I saw all the programs, the list of them, and they're all good programs to have, but especially when we're talking about children and children's safety, is there any programs that are allocated or money allocated towards programs that to help things like food insecurity, things like housing insecurity, because those are things that keep communities safe. People have food, housing, adequate clothing, mental health support. That's what keeps communities safe. And so I see a lot of job placements, which job placement is great. Job placement is a great thing to have. People do need to work. But while people are trying to, are struggling to find work or struggling to keep a job, there needs to be some programs that keep them afloat so that they don't have to turn to other alternatives to keep themselves afloat. The other question I have is how much of the budget, being that it's $8 million that's being put aside to these programs, how much of that is going out to outreach to the community so people know about these programs and know that they can get access to these programs?
Mr. Williams, your time has expired.
Those are my questions.
Thank you. We'll move on to Brittany Pollock, followed by Julia R., followed by Christy Zamani, followed by Colin Boggart.
Can y'all hear me?
We can. You have 1 minute, 30 seconds. Go ahead.
Great. I'm calling about the youth intervention program, specifically program number 4 in the presentation, Police Activities League, and any other programs that will involve police or law enforcement. How on earth can you justify giving more money and support to police out of the city budget for these programs when there is literal murderers on the force? Is the goal of this program to teach youth how to be violent towards their communities and to shoot Black citizens in the back and have others kneel on them as they bleed out and die? Is that the intention of this program? Anthony McLean was murdered in this exact way, as all of you know, and you've continued to decide to do absolutely nothing about it. Shame on all of you, for real. Why would you connect systems of literal murder with children and youth? That makes no sense. The Black and brown communities of Pasadena have been brutalized and harmed at the hands of Pasadena PD enough for far too long. Anthony McLean, J.R. Thomas, Kendrick McDade, may they rest in power. By allowing these officers to remain on your force, you continue to risk the lives of Black and brown people within the city, and you jeopardize the safety for all of us. The city's efforts to avoid accountability and defer its responsibilities to other entities is invalid and futile, and we will not be silenced, nor will we relinquish our demands. Police do not belong anywhere near schools or youth because youth don't belong in jails. You're putting them in
Ms.
proximity to
Pollock,
violence.
you're way off topic.
Through these programs. I'm not off topic. You have a program called Police Activities League. Are you serious? You think I'm off topic? Police already eat up $86 million of the budget. That's over
Ms. Pollock, your
24%
time has expired.
of the budget. Are you serious? What are you doing? This is
Julia R., followed by Christy Zamani, followed by Colin Boggart. Julia, *6 to unmute, please. There you go. 1 minute, 30 seconds. Go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
Hi, I am also calling I'm a teacher, and I'm calling on behalf of specifically the item that the previous caller talked about, the Police Activities League. We do have to understand that when we are involving a police force that has had multiple murders on its force, we have to wonder why there isn't any education around this. Do kids know about how bad the Pasadena Police Department is? Do they know about the lawsuits? Have we talked about how to protect them from the police? Is that something that we are going to be actively discussing during this league? I don't even, what is that? Why is it, what, a league? I also continue to have questions about gang intervention when how are we going to support these systems? We're giving all of this money to continue to label all of these individuals. Where is that going to, how is that going to actively support them in their day-to-day when they are recovering? And what I I'm curious and I want a lot more specifics. This is a lot of money and how these are actually going to enact change in these individuals' lives beyond just putting them.
Julia, your time has expired. We're going to move on to Christy Zamani, followed by Colin Bogart, followed by Carolyn Galoni. And remember, when I ring the 30-second bell, you have 30 seconds. Christy, go ahead.
Hi, Mayor Gordo. Thank you. Mayor Gordo, President Pomeroy, members of the school board and city council. My name is Christy Zamani, Executive Director for Day One, Chair of the Partnership for Children, Youth, and Families, and most importantly, a lifelong youth advocate. I'm so happy to hear Mayor Gordo and others speak about joint programming. I believe the report did a wonderful job identifying the city offered youth programs. I do, however, recommend that the city staff work with our nonprofits and schools to include the lengthy number of programs offered to develop a comprehensive list of youth programs. To best serve our youth, it's imperative that we work as a team and hold ourselves accountable to excellent, impactful programs that positively impact youth outcomes. We need to come together not only to better understand the numbers of programs we offer, but to also assess their effectiveness. How many youth benefit from each program? How satisfied are youth with the program? How does the program impact youth success? How can we do better? It's crucial to keep ourselves accountable to deliver exciting, impactful programming that makes a difference. Investing in youth program is investing in prevention, violence prevention, gang prevention, drug prevention. We need to examine the city's budget and ask ourselves, is this the best we can do for our youth? Can we give more? Can we invest more in them? Lastly, I will share that we have had a series of informative meetings with youth serving agencies to better understand why youth aren't joining our program. We are happy to share our findings with you so we can all work together to remove these barriers. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Colin Bogart, followed by Carolyn Galoni, followed by Daniel Fong. Colin, you have 1 minute, 30 seconds. Go ahead.
Thank you. Mayor Gordo and City Council members, President Pomeroy, and PUSD board members, my name is Colin Bogart. I'm a resident of Pasadena and I work for the local nonprofit, Day One. I want to tell you about a program relevant to PUSD students that you might not know about. Day One, PUSD and the Pasadena Department of Transportation have been working together on a grant-funded Safe Routes to School programming since 2019. The main goal is to get PUSD students walking and biking to school on a more regular basis as a means of encouraging a healthy, active lifestyle, potentially reducing traffic congestion outside schools and reducing greenhouse gas emissions in our community. Despite pandemic challenges, our partners at PUSD and Pasadena DOT have been working with us to creatively find ways we can better serve our youth. As part of our Safe Routes to School program, we've recently added the La Pintoresca Teen Education Center to our team effort by offering free bicycle repair workshops at the center. The workshops are being held every Monday and Wednesday from 3 to 5 p.m. PUSD students can learn basic bike repair and maintenance skills that will enable them to fix and adjust their own bikes. Learning such skills can help build self-confidence as well as a stronger sense of independence by encouraging the use of bicycles for transportation. Students are not required to have a bike, but are encouraged to bring their own if they have one.
Mr. Bogart, your time has expired.
Oh.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Carolyn Galoni, followed by Daniel Fong, followed by Yadi, followed by Julie Martinez.
Hi. First of all, I'd like to say that I have kids at 3 different PUSD schools, and justice for Anthony McLean. I'd also like to say I looked at some of the funding, and I just want to first say shame on us for using HUD funding for security cameras, and that's for housing. Let's use it for such. We have a housing crisis here. I also want to say that, of course, it's like we need jobs, we need job training. And you're right, we need mental health professionals, not police officers, to surround these kids and their families that need it. All of us do. And we want to look at programs to do that, to uplift students and to support students and families in that way. I also think there's ways that, like, we are spending, it says, I believe, $8.2 million. It could be a little bit off on that annually. And we're also spending that money on the Rose Bowl rentals. Like, if you guys are saying the Rose Bowl is worth that investment, because you're gonna get money back from it somehow, even though we're losing that much money. These kids are worth far more money than that. And your investment's gonna be even far greater than that. I mean, you got a $70 million bond for the Rose Bowl and the community center, but what about these kids? If you want to get money back, let's put it into these families and these kids. Let's do it with paid internships. Let's do it job training. Have the peer tutoring and pay the peers. Peers could also do Spanish language for adults, and then maybe parents would hear more about programs, and we could be supportive of entire families that way. It's
Ms. Coloni, your time has expired.
Need to have money in their pockets, and we need buses to help kids access these
Thank you.
resources.
We're going to move on to Daniel Fong, followed by Yadi, followed by Julie Martinez. Go ahead, 1 minute, 30 seconds.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Gordo, School Board, President Pomeroy, and members of the council and school board. My name is Daniel Fong. I am a lifelong resident of Pasadena and a product of the public schools here. I am the new director of violence prevention at Day One. We're excited to see that the city committed to reducing violence for everyone. Recently, Day One was granted a regional violence prevention coalition grant that focuses on reducing violence throughout the San Gabriel Valley. Our San Gabriel Valley Violence Prevention Coalition currently meets monthly and consists of a diverse group of community leaders, educators, peace advocates, law enforcement, and residents. Additionally, we developed a landscape analysis of violence in the San Gabriel Valley and some barriers parents are facing. Some of the major barriers identified in accessing youth programming was lack of trust, affordability, safety concerns regarding program staff, and time to transport youth to programs. We're committed in bridging the generational and cultural gaps within our communities to build a more connected and reliable community that works together in reducing violence. We're more than happy to partner with Pasadena Parks and Rec and other groups to create a safer community and welcome you to the table. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We'll call in Yadi, followed by Julie Martinez, followed by Hiram Cormier Jr., followed by Karina Kay. Yadi, can you unmute? Thank you. You have 1 minute and 30
Hi.
seconds. Go ahead.
In the chart, Wi-Fi hotspots are line items for both library and city manager's office, showing how super important it is to have internet access. Hotspots were okay as a solution in 2020, but not today. Pasadena has the opportunity to be a leader and close the digital divide in the city by leveraging its existing fiber infrastructure to open it up to be a municipal broadband network that's available to residents. Access to reliable, high-speed, and affordable internet is crucial in today's world. On another piece of tech, at the Public Safety Committee, this presentation and accompanying chart came with a report which referred to a pilot project to provide cameras to residents for them to install on their homes. I don't support the installation of these cameras. The idea, I think, is very inappropriate. If residents want to buy cameras on their own, that's one thing, but the city and PPD has no business underwriting and pushing surveillance equipment onto residents.
Mayor, I have a quick question of staff.
Mr. Kennedy?
Ms. Kurtz, can you confirm to the community that we are not providing surveillance equipment for residents to place on their residential property?
We are currently not providing any cameras for any private property. There is discussion about offering to subsidize, as other cities have, cameras should people choose to have them. No one would be required to have them. And that will be a further discussion with public safety, and we'll see if they recommend that we discuss it with the full council. But there's nothing now, and there would be nothing that would be mandatory. It would be to help people who wanted to have them, felt safer having them, but weren't able to afford them on their own.
Thank you very much for your response. Thank you, Mayor.
Next speaker.
We're going to call in Julie Martinez, followed by Hiram Cormier Jr., followed by Karina Kay, followed by Kate McInerney. Julie, are you able to unmute? We have a couple of computers. Maybe try the other one.
Hello,
There-
can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead. 1 minute, 30 seconds. Thank you. Oh, you just muted yourself. You want to start again? Unmute. There you go.
Can you hear me now? Okay,
Yeah,
sorry.
go ahead.
Thank you for this opportunity to speak. I am a District 7, and I appreciate the presentation on intervention for youth. Those of us who continually speak up in the name of people whose lives have been impacted by police violence, the Pasadena police, we always say that what is needed is more youth intervention style programs. But I would like to take this even further. Understanding the large police budget, I would like to propose that 20%, a minimum of 20% of the police budget be reallocated towards community intervention for youth, including job training and all the other components that were brought forward. But there's another issue that may be a problem when the police are involved with these youth intervention. There is a tremendous lack of trust in police, and it is fostered by police use of force that's not only viewed as unfair, but viewed as police leading to more violence against the community. People are very cynic towards policing, especially if family members have been impacted by violence. If a member of the family has been killed or impacted by Pasadena police, they are less likely to trust it.
Ms. Martinez,
There
your
are many
time has
steps.
expired.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hiram Cormier Jr., followed by Karina Kay, followed by Kate McInerney. Hiram?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
All right. So first of all Black Lives Matter, all Black Lives Matter, including and especially Black gang members. You know, these programs, some of them seem cool. Not that police activity makes shit, definitely not that. But I'm just wondering, you know, where is the compassion for Black people? The world has been trained to not have compassion for Black people. You guys fear us, and you criminalize everything we do. And even if someone's in a gang, that doesn't make them an evil ass shoot 'em up person. I mean, boy, these kids are not carrying guns because they want to kill people. They carry it because they don't want to die. How would you feel if you had somebody every day trying to knock your head? You would carry one too, nigga. So it's plenty. It's just so like hypocritical and ironic that y'all speak about this, but y'all don't do nothing about the murderers on your own police force who create gang violence. Pasadena, I know personally, Pasadena has had gangs for over 100 years. Over 100 years. And it's always been the Pasadena police who are the most powerful gang, no matter the numbers. On top of that, y'all want to help. How did you help Anthony McClain? How did you help Kendrick McDade? How did you help BA? How did you help J.R. Thomas? All those Black people serving life. All those Black people, you don't understand the people on both sides.
Hiram, your time has expired. We're going to
You
move on to
understand that?
Karina Kay.
Defund the police, nigga.
Karina. You have 1 minute and 30 seconds. Go ahead.
My name's Karina. I'm a Pasadena resident and a member of Black Lives Matter Los Angeles. And like the previous caller was saying, you all are missing the point when we're talking about gang intervention and community safety. You're missing the point of what causes these conditions in the first place. You're missing the social justice issues. How many students are homeless? How many students are facing the same problems that their families are facing? So instead of focusing your attention on the criminal behavior of children, there's no such thing. They're children. Instead of focusing on that, you need to focus on the systemic and societal issues that you refuse to address and deal with. You refuse to address police accountability and a police department that murders children. So when these children make it through school, if they do make it through school unscathed, they enter a society where they can get shot in the back and nothing will happen. So this city council, staring in the face of the Pasadena USD, will do nothing to ensure that our students are safe. And the fact that you are intervening with students instead of taking care of the issues that ail them is a travesty. It's disgusting. And this is all symbolic, as someone has said. super symbolic, and you are failing as civil servants. You're failing to address the issue. It's not to criminalize our students. It's to create the situations where they can live their full potential, which you all are the antithesis of. You should be ashamed. Justice for Anthony McClain, Black Lives Matter, and you're failing the city of Pasadena. You're failing Black and brown and poor people, as we say and is demonstrated week after week after week after week. Fire the officers who killed Anthony McClain and don't put them anywhere near our
Karina,
schools.
your time has expired. We'll move on
Thank
to
you.
Kate McInerney, followed by Alan Shea. *6 to unmute, Miss McInerney. *6, there you go. 1 minute, 30 seconds. Go ahead.
Hi. So as many community members have spoken about, this quote unquote gang intervention programs for youth are an extension of the same racist policing that we see in communities of color in Pasadena. If we want to reduce violence in communities, let's reduce and eliminate the police, whose violence is exemplified in the murder of Anthony McClain. Police and police-run programs do not belong in schools. Security cameras don't belong in parks. Youth and other community members should be free to live without constant surveillance and policing. It's time to let youth, particularly Black youth, thrive without these constant labels and just really limiting youth potential. And to let youth thrive, like, police should not be a part of it at all. And frankly, focusing on jobs as the only alternative is also limiting youth. What about them being students? What about them being family members and people who, should have access to programs and just being a child? Like, they don't have to automatically turn into workers either. Again, it's just like limiting, and honestly just such a waste of resources when really we could be using those to
Miss McInerney, your
support
time has
youth
expired.
and give them education that reflects
We're going to
their
move on to Alan Shea. Thank you. Alan, *6 to unmute.
Good afternoon, City Council, Your Honorable Victor Gordo, and school board members. I'm glad that you brought today's items up for discussion because they're vital to rebuild trust in the community. One of the issues that I did not hear was really on policies and how to effectuate policies as you attempt to introduce the community to these new possible programs and how effective they are. As you're well aware, in the Anthony McClain case, the policies have failed here in the city because of our charter, which was initiated back in 1901 and has not been changed, because the city manager failed to acknowledge that she has the power to change or fire according to White versus the city of Pasadena, where the officer was fired 3 times and she, in her due process, was exercised. These type of policies need to be called out and clarified so that the community knows that there are methods that provides due process for the officers as well as the families for their protection. That's the kind of leadership we need, and that's the type of information that should be conveyed when you're talking about building trust in the community. Otherwise, there will be no trust, and we'll continue to stay in this abyss that we're dealing with right now with how can we trust our police department, which most of us, 90% of us, want to do that. We want to love our
Mr.
police
Shea,
department.
your time has
With the
expired.
leadership.
Thank you.
I would correct the record. The city charter has been changed. It was changed in 1999, where our city manager form of government was in fact revisited and considered. And the prevailing view was that the city manager form of government was the appropriate government for Pasadena.
May I just
Yes.
very quickly? Yes, one of the council members suggested that I just let people know, yes, we have very robust programs in housing. We have very course, we have our public health department, so we have a lot of programs there, some physical, some mental services available. We partner with a great number of nonprofits in that area. And on food security, I would say that it is the nonprofits in the community. They're much more involved, but we support them and try to assist them somewhat financially and with other programs. So a number of the things that were brought up by some of the speakers, yes, they are absolutely legs on the stool of supporting the community and the youth in the community. That wasn't our focus for this evening, and if in another time, I'd be glad to bring those forward as well.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Oh, I
The
thought we were
last
done.
speaker, sorry, the last speaker is Nicole King.
Sorry, I thought they were done.
She's still, no? She put in a speaker card? Okay. Okay, so that completes public comment for everyone that's submitted a speaker card.
So that completes public comment and this matter. We are almost at the six o'clock hours, but I think we can quickly cover the joint use agreement, and then the city council's task force on early childhood development. President Pomeroy, do you want to introduce this next matter?
Yes, do we have a staff member who's going to give us some highlights of the joint use?
Yes, President Pomeroy, we do have Dr. Leslie Barnes, the Chief Business and Facilities Officer. Dr. Barnes?
Good evening, Mayor Gordo, President Pomeroy, Superintendent McDonald, Council, City Council, and board members. I'm Dr. Leslie Barnes, Chief Finance and Operation Officer for PUSD. Tonight, I wanted to talk about the history of our joint use agreements. And so our joint use master lease agreement began in 1979 and was actually agreement number 139901. Since then, it's had 18 amendments to date. And so in 1979, the city and PUSD agreed to reciprocal use of recreation and school facilities for a period of 10 years. In November of 1989, that was amended to extend it for another 10 years and to specifically exclude the city's golf course, Pasadena Center, the Rose Bowl Aquatic Center, the Rose Bowl itself, and the district pools. Those were to be negotiated separately. So an amendment in 1993 also came about to facilitate the priority of use of our different facilities. And so for the district facilities, the priority is with school-oriented programs. And next would be the City of Pasadena recreation programs. Beyond that, it's the community youth, serving groups, civic and related organizations, and agencies not within PUSD boundaries. For the city, it's just split priority 1 and 2, and the others remain the same. There was an amendment in July of 2000 that specifically called out Sierra Madre, since the district boundaries are within Sierra Madre and also Altadena. So it did split the second priority into the city of Sierra Madre when the site was in the Sierra Madre area, and Pasadena when it was in the Pasadena area. In November of 2008, Measure TT was passed, and so the city and the district partnered and did an additional amendment. They extended the master agreement for 50 additional years, and also with the city's help, some financial help, the city was allotted the new lighted softball field at Pasadena High School from Monday through Friday, 6 to 9 p.m., and Saturdays and Sundays from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. The gymnasium at McKinley in 2011 and Washington Gymnasium in 2012. Also Monday through Friday from 5 to 9 p.m. and Saturday and Sunday from 8 to 5. With the exception of any POSD-sponsored events. And then also the new synthetic track and field facilities at PHS and Muir. I would like to point out that we did actually recarpet those fields. They usually have about a 10-year lifespan, and so they had reached their 10-year lifespan. And so those were recarpeted this past summer, and so they look very nice. We also had, in February of 2011, the joint use agreement with Linda Vista School, which allowed the district lease some of the Linda Vista area to a childcare, and then the city had the other piece for a park area. In April of 2016, we entered into the agreement with the neighborhood park at Madison Elementary School, with park hours in the evenings and on the weekends as well. We did start in 2010 to use an MOU with the city, with Blair and PHS pools. And so in that case, the city does run their after school or their summer program to teach children how to swim. And that takes place after our summer school. And then just recently, in 2018, we did an additional amendment, and the city was able to help us financially with new restrooms at Muir High School. And for that, the city has exclusive rights to the Muir South Field and a portion of the adjacent parking lot. And then this past year, we had a MOU between the city and PUSD for 6 years for the lease of the Jefferson Elementary School campus that will house the main library while it's being renovated, and also the fire academy. And I think, currently we are in talks with regarding the McKinley tennis courts, that I know that there's an interest in additional pickleball courts. And so we are in the process of finalizing that MOU. And there were talks of the district service center as well, although we're having more trouble with trying to be able to fit both our program and the city's bus yard there. Our Measure O projects have not yet been identified, and so we're in the process of updating our facilities and educational master plans right now. And we do have a newly created board facilities committee that will be used to vet the facilities master plan and the development of all future projects. So as we look to partner in the future, those will go through our facilities committee. If there's any questions.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Wilson, did you have a comment?
Just a quick comment. I know we're pressed for time, but I did hear over my breakfast with the city manager today that the McKinley MOU got signed. As you may know, we repurposed the Allendale court to be full-time pickleball. And so we were looking, that has been very popular, by the way. There's a very aggressive movement for pickleball. So the idea of redoing the courts at McKinley is something that's been in the works, and we're excited to bring a combination of tennis courts and pickleball courts there. And we already have the gym, so there's a joint use facility in place and kind of control. So we're in District 7 excited about that finally coming to life. So progress. So thank you all for who worked on that.
Ms. Kinney, followed by Ms. Williams.
I just wanted to make sure I have the correct information. I believe the Jefferson agreement is the only one where there's a payment. Is that true?
As far as a lease, yes. The others, as I mentioned, the district or the city helped out with renovations, and so that's how those agreements came about as well.
Okay, Ms. Williams.
Thanks. Just to follow up on Vice Mayor Wilson's comment, and also to be responsive to the public comments, could maybe you come back at a different time, but what could be the opportunities in the process for using some of the closed schools as open space, or creating more MOUs for closed schools or existing schools for more recreational needs? And that would also involve perhaps changing the priority order, that open recreational hours, or maybe the programs like pickleball could be done through Parks and Rec, so that it would get some sort of priority at the courts. But just a way to kind of bring that back and see how we could take advantage of more of the opportunities to have more MOUs.
I think Felicia in particular has been a lot of recent interest in Allendale. I was just there at opening night for Southwest Little League, and I heard from a number of Little Leaguers that they would love to see more space, and I'm sure there are many other uses, especially now that Blair has been restored, that building. It looks like it's an asset that could find a new future.
Thank you. In pickleball. Pickleball is an Olympic sport. Next, Mr. Hampton has raised his hand, and then we've got 6 public comment cards.
Thank you. I'll just say that the joint use stuff has been helpful. I just want to make sure that PUSD students aren't displaced in these joint use agreements. I feel like if we are using AYSO or iTennis or any of these organizations that the city partners with on those courts, we should be giving priority to our PUSD students. So just have a look at that, city manager.
Yeah, I think the goal is to serve the kids from this community in every program that we sponsor or support, both at city sites and school district sites. I'd say that's a
I understand, yeah, that is definitely the goal, but sometimes it doesn't work out that way.
Yeah.
I still haven't been able to get any information from AYSO on how many PUSD students they're scholarshiping. Same thing with Tom Sawyer, et cetera. I think it's important because, AYSO is using the John Muir Field, and PUSD students should, be a part of that. And even if it's in the discussion that we originally were talking about, if we need, as a city, need to put some funding towards that, we should to make sure that our students, our young students in PUSD do have access to their own field. And so that's it. So I appreciate it, man.
Noted. Thank you. Public comment?
Thank you, Mayor. For item 4, the city clerk's office received 20 letters advocating for additional shared facilities with Pasadena Unified School District schools and city parks to allow for the playing of pickleball or other activities, or building additional pickleball courts, and expressing concerns with the lack of pickleball courts in Pasadena and wait times to play pickleball at Allendale, McDonald, and Farnsworth parks, as well as 4 letters advocating for additional walkable and accessible open park space, including expanding Allendale Park. We'll call Michael Alvarez, followed by Peter Coate, who may not be in the meeting, followed by Bruce Bailey, Ann Lee, Jill Shook, and then Christy Zamani. Mr. Alvarez.
Yes, my name is Mike Alvidres. I am the Pasadena Pickleball Ambassador. I'm so glad you are having this conversation in this joint meeting. You may know that the pickleball is, again, the fastest growing sport in the country. It has increased and exploded by 39% in just the last 2 years, leaving everyone at a loss at how to meet the demand. But I think the McKinley project is noteworthy, given that it is attempting to use existing facilities in a shared use concept, which I think is fantastic. Just so you know, there's a lot of frustration out there. I think some of those were captured in the comments that people submitted to you. I get those same frustrations to me. People say, why am I walking past this school or that park and it's not being used, or it's very underutilized? So I think the direction that you're going in makes a lot of sense. I would point out that there are other opportunities that could be explored. The first is Wilson School, which is closed, but it has 5 courts, 2 of which are separately enclosed and open to the public. Because I speak for hundreds of pickleball players in this community, may I have another 30 seconds?
Yes, you have 18 seconds now.
The second one is Pasadena High School, which has 10 courts, 2 of which are also separately enclosed, and by simply adding a gate, could be made available for shared use between tennis and pickleball. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Peter Coate, sorry, no? All right, moving on to Bruce Bailey, followed by Ann Lee, followed by Jill Shook, followed by Christy Zamani. Bruce Bailey, not here. Ann Lee? Jill Shook? Jill, you have a minute, 30 seconds. Go ahead.
Yes, to President Pomeroy, PUSD board members, Mayor Gordo, and City Council members, since there's some policies at the state level proposed this year that would make some funding and other support available for schools to have affordable housing for faculty and students, student families on school district land. My recommendation is that in preparation for this legislation, hopefully, if it will get passed, that there's a committee that would be formed, a joint committee with PUSD and the City of Pasadena's Housing Department to explore the possible uses of some of the underutilized spaces on campus property. That's the first comment. And then I wanted to mention that this Saturday, I interacted with a charming 12th grader at Muir High School who gave a glowing report of how awesome his experiences at Muir. It was amazing. But this is not the case for all students. I learned of an African-American family who took their children out of USD lately because of their many attempts to try to deal with their child being targeted with sexual and other types of bullying in the locker room and even outside the classroom. And so, so I'd like to know what's being done to address this kind of concern to prevent more folks from being displaced from the school district. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shook. Last is Christy Zamani for item 4. Christy, 1 minute.
Hi again,
30.
everyone. I just wanted to use this opportunity to share that the partnership convenes monthly and regularly consists of 30+ nonprofit organizations. And we always discuss how and what we can do better to support our youth and families. One area that has recently gained more interest and discussion is the desire to partner with the city and school districts to utilize a decommissioned school to establish a safe place that serves as a one-stop shop youth center, a place where youth can access the guidance and resources they need to reach their full potential. We're at the beginning of this discussion and would love to explore the idea with you. And lastly, I would just recommend that we prioritize facility use by youth benefit instead of agency rank. Thank you again for all your time tonight. Have a great evening.
Thank you. That completes public comment on item 4.
Great, thank you. And that brings us to the, oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Fredericks.
Thank you. Oh, I just want to follow up with 2 things I heard. One from Councilmember Hampton regarding prioritizing PUSD students for the programs. And I didn't hear any definitive response to that, sort of nodding, but does prioritizing mean like reserved spots? Is that happening, or you're gonna look into it? Or
I think the intent of Mr. Hampton's comments is as we look to support and provide assistance to different nonprofits, we should be, and partners, we should be measuring the level at which they serve students in the PUSD. That's what I interpreted from Mr. Hampton's comments, and in his view, that doesn't happen as often as it should. And so I think the challenge for the school district as well as for the city is to ensure that it is happening whenever we support a program. Whenever whether it's through funding or helping them get funding from the state or the federal government, we should ensure that those programs are serving the kids in this community as a priority.
so what I'm hearing, correct me if I'm wrong, is sort of we're gonna data gather first and see how it's going.
I think it's important to look at the current programs, but also looking forward at future programs to ensure that that's one of the data points that we look at carefully.
And then I wanted to echo one of the public comments about the housing and potential joint task force. Is that something that has been done or is a possibility?
I think, you know, particularly as you assess your enrollment numbers, it'll be important for our 2 bodies to begin to have discussions about the your plans for future use of any district properties, see how they fit in with our general plan, with our land use documents, but also addressing needs for the city in general and for the district and for the constituents that we have in common. So yeah, I would
Same
encourage
families.
those. Yeah,
We have the same families.
I'm sorry?
We have the same families.
Yeah, we have the same, we're serving the same population and we absolutely should have that discussion.
I apologize. I had started to prepare for the next presentation, but your question, Councilmember Hampton mentioned 3 organizations, AYSO, Tom Sawyer, and iTennis. AYSO and Tom Sawyer both have contracts to use city facilities or city land. So as those leases come up, we can certainly require that we see who they're serving and make that a priority. iTennis is actually the city's provider. The only people they provide tennis support for on public courts are the people that register through our rec program. So we know exactly who they serve, and our rec program serves, as you say, the children that we serve jointly.
Yeah. Mr. Cahalan?
Yeah, just very, very briefly. So the facilities committee that was mentioned earlier on, the board member Bailey is the chair. I'm on it, and Jennifer, you're the third member, right? You're right. So anyone in the city council that's interested in getting the announcements of when those meetings are being held or what materials are being presented, we are going to talk about a number of the things that have come up here. Workforce housing is one of the conversations when we passed measure, or there's language in it that allows us to use some of that money for workforce housing. Of course, there are competing desires for every dollar that the district has. So those conversations will happen at those meetings, but we're happy to invite anyone on the city that wants to come, or if you would like a summary, you can make sure that Ms. Orona, the board secretary, makes sure you get copies of the minutes and the agendas. Anybody who's interested, we're happy to share info.
I do think it's important that we stay in communication. You know, the education code exempts PUSD from our local zoning laws, as long as you're staying in the realm of educational purposes. Once you start talking about anything outside of educational purposes, then it reboots back to our underlying zoning. And so to the extent that you are having discussions or are planning for school sites and it doesn't involve educational purposes under the state code, then I would encourage you to keep us informed through minutes and notify us. We probably should assign a staff person to track those discussions and keep us informed, because I would not want to see the district get so far down the line and then come up with a proposal that's inconsistent with our underlying land.
And that's obviously the city council's purview. You know more about the transportation grid than we do. And I agree, like we definitely do not want to get 5 miles down the road of proposing that we're going to put housing at a site and then have the city say it won't work there because of power grid reasons or any one of the so we will certainly be in contact.
Mayor Gordo, I would point out that our friends at Fuller found themselves in a situation where they got well down the pike and were surprised throughout some of the constraints that were associated with their property. So once again, it was a lot of ill-spent effort and things like that. So I think forward visibility across both parties is going to be beneficial.
Yeah, the building
Mayor,
codes,
may I please
the
be
building
recognized?
codes and the land use document, land use exemptions apply under state law only when you're using the property for school purposes or education purposes. Once you begin to go away from that, then the building code exemption, land use exemptions are no
Mayor Gordo, we cannot hear
Oh.
you.
I'm sorry, Mr. Kennedy, I was saying that the exemptions for school districts from building codes for land use apply as long as the district is using its property for educational purposes. Once you move away from that, either directly as a user or indirectly through an RFP or a partner, then the city has more say and those exemptions no longer would apply is the position that, yeah, absolutely. Every property inside the city. Well, and I'm sure the county and the city of Sierra Madre would take a similar position. And so I do think that it's wise for us to have conversations as you're developing ideas to ensure that there's consistency with the city's land use goals and to ensure that we're bringing the community along. And so that we're working together for to maximize the use of any properties that you deem that are not needed for school purposes. Yeah, Mr. Kennedy?
If I may, I just simply asked Trustee Cahalan and Dr. Brian McDonald if they would consider contacting Jim Osterling, who is intimately involved in producing forest housing under a state, I guess you would say a state platform. Doesn't necessarily have all the needs of city approval. Certainly it does have to meet our zoning. So they've been very successful and they're building 180 units on Oakland just north of Walnut. So please consider having a discussion with Jim Osterling, and all of you know him as being a member of the Board of Trustees at PCC.
One other.
Be a man of integrity.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. One other thought is, we really should have a conversation between the school district, the city, and Pasadena City College as we think through education in Pasadena. I think PCC is an important component, and they're pretty landlocked over there unless they start moving into the neighborhoods. And I think, again, sticking with the theme that we've all got the same goal, we're all serving the same constituency, it would be wise for the school district and PCC and the city to have sort of the 30,000-foot level discussion on educational needs, land use consistency, and properties that are currently vacant or that you might anticipate will be vacant in the future. And I would encourage, in fact, I'm in touch with President Andrew Jonas, and I'll make that suggestion and circle back with the city manager and the president and the superintendent. And maybe we can organize that on our end. Okay, now that completes this matter, and we'll move on to item 5. This is a pretty straightforward item, and I'll turn it over to the city manager.
Thank you. I'm going to shorten my presentation here. It'll just be a few moments because a lot of this material is in your package this evening. But we did want to let you know formally and make sure the entire Board of Education knew the City Council has initiated a review of the Early Childhood Development Policy, which was last reviewed in 2014. And I had a number of slides here on the history. I'm going to, in the interest of time, skip that. Originally, this policy was adopted in 1994 and has evolved since through a number of different committees that were set up specifically with the task in mind of looking at the early childhood development policy. It's changed names over time as well. But last Monday, the council approved the formation of a new task force and asked them to look at how the policy needs to change, given that since 2014 we find ourselves with children and families in a much different place. The council did ask Vera Vignes, who chaired the ad hoc committee in 2014, to once again act as chair to provide continuity to the work. The specific work that they were asked to do, the work plan, is in your package tonight. I'll just highlight 3 things. One is updating the policy to adopt the new challenges that family and youth are facing, much of it due to COVID, and how that has changed the home life, how it has widened the wealth gap, and many other factors that I know the Board of Education is well aware of. Also looking at aligning the city's work in this area with the nonprofits. And you heard that on some of our earlier items, and the task force will be looking at the things we do in the area of early childhood development, and do they align with the nonprofits work. And finally, as in all work we give task force, we ask them to look for funding opportunities. But we think some of them will be available because it is an area of interest to the federal government as well. The full list, as I said, is in your package. The last 2 years have been particularly difficult for families, and I don't think that any part of childhood development has had to adjust more than the education system and what you have had to do at the Board of Education. So we're really pleased that Ms. Hudson has agreed to participate, and appreciate her words earlier. We really are open to others from PUSD who have an interest in this to come to our meetings. They will all be open public meetings, and to participate as well. You do not need to be on the committee to be an active participant in this group. The chair really would like to see that the community is involved in the discussion as the people on the task force itself. And I won't go through the background of all of those people. There are 14 members that were appointed last Monday. There are 14 members appointed last Monday, and their names and their bios are in the package. The council asked the task force to complete their work in 6 months. There is one required review to come back in mid-June to the council, and what we would like to offer is if the Board of Education would like a report, either written or in person, in the mid-June area, we'd be glad to provide it. And it depends on what your schedule and agenda allows. It's a large undertaking, and 6 months is not a lot of time, but this is important that we get through, that we make the changes in the policy, and then ultimately in the programs that we need to. We want it to be a very open process. We want to have the meetings set up so that everyone can participate, and we really want to thank you for your support. Your support in 2014 was integral in updating the policy, and we know we will be active partners in this round as well. With that, I could take any questions, Mayor.
I would just say, colleagues, that I view this as an important effort. In 2014, when we looked at the numbers, there were over 8,000, between 8,000 and 9,000, 0 to 5 kids in the city of Pasadena, and nearly 4,900 of them, about 4,900 of them, were in the WIC program. And to qualify for WIC, you have to be at 185% of the poverty level. And so, that translates into kids who are seeing challenges at home. It translates to maybe kids not having, or the families not having the resources to provide early childhood education, so that when kids show up at your front door, ready to go to kindergarten, they may not be as prepared maybe as they could have been if we had put the resources into turning that curve and helping kids be prepared, so that when they're handed over to the school district for their education, they're better prepared to succeed and have a better opportunity. And so I would strongly urge all of us to double down on this effort. When we're talking about prevention, that's where it's at. If kids are arriving at the school district doorsteps and they're not prepared to succeed in those first couple of years, then your job is all the more difficult. And if they're not prepared to succeed in the first couple of years, then they're going to be challenged to succeed in the next decade of their education at PUSD. And so I think working together, we can help address that, so that you can do your job, and we can together prepare kids to allow you to educate the kids, because they're better prepared when they show up at the schoolhouse steps. So that's the intent and goal of this effort. And I would strongly urge you as individual board members and as an organization to work with us on these goals. So, Mr. Hampton?
Yeah, very briefly. one of the 14 is one of them a PUSD outside of Vera Vignes, who was previously, superintendent of Pasadena Unified School District. Is there a PUSD representative that is an active participant in PUSD now, either a staff member or elected?
Yes, there is a council member. It is Ree Hudson, and she's the Director of Early Education Programs for PUSD, and she has agreed to participate.
No coercion.
perfect. Thank you.
No coercion involved. She willingly agreed. I do think it's an important effort, or we're going to continue to see kids struggle when they arrive at the schoolhouse steps. And so I think to the extent we can work together to change that, we should. With that,
Just one letter to read, or one piece of correspondence to report out. The city clerk's office received one letter thanking the council, I think also the PUSD, for considering kids in early childhood education and crime preventions, and advocated for a smarter approach to crime prevention by committing to ensuring every child goes to college or is provided a job after graduation from PUSD schools. That letter was distributed and is posted online as part of the record for this item. Thank you. There are no public comment speakers for this item.
okay, that completes our joint agenda. I'd like to thank the superintendent and Madam President and all of the school board members and your respective staff for participating. And it sounds like we've got some work to do on joint use prevention, as well as maybe some discussions around some of your facilities. And so we'll follow up with some of these issues and continue this discussion.
Yes, before.
Mayor, before
Hold on one second, Mr. Hampton.
before we adjourn, man. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. President
Oh,
Pablo.
I just wanted to say before you wrap your gavel that on behalf of PUSD, we are very happy to be here and we're happy to work with you.
Thank you. Mr. Hampton, last word.
Yeah, last words. I just want to say I am grateful to be working alongside of all my colleagues from PUSD. And before we close today, this is going to be the last meeting. President Pomeroy will be joining us as a joint meeting, as well as Scott Phelps, two people that I served with when I was a school board member. I just wanted to thank the two of you for your service. I'm very grateful for your service. And as an elected official, being able to watch you in action has been a part of my growth. So I just want to just let you know, you've been a teacher of mine. Same thing, Scott, and actually Scott was a teacher of mine, which is actually funny. And I just wanted to say thank you for your service.
Thank you for those kind words.
Okay, thank you, everyone. And as the council now is going to recess into closed session, but before we do that, the clerk has an announcement.
So to facilitate some public comment on the closed session, we will adjourn this meeting, call the closed session to order. So the PUSD members that are here are free to leave after we adjourn the meeting, so that we can take the public comment on the closed session. And then council members, we will ask you to convene in the closed session Zoom meeting after the public comment on the closed session. So Mayor, if we want to adjourn first, and then we'll keep going live. KPAS, do not shut off the meeting just yet.
And council members stay on.
And council members stay on, please.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
So the meeting is adjourned.
So we are adjourned.
was it. Whether or not officers are fired here in the city of Pasadena, because you have you have a power over the person that's doing the firing. If you're the boss of someone who has the decision over who gets fired, that means you also have an input and influence on that firing. So stop saying that you don't have power to make a decision. Stop putting it off to the district attorney. Stop putting it off to the city manager. We know you have the ability to fire the officers that killed Anthony McLean. Please make that influence known and put the pressure on the city manager to make that decision. Or do
Thank you,
whatever
Michael.
other
That's the,
thing you have to do to make
your
sure
time is
that those
expired.
officers are removed off the force.
We're going to move on to Hiram Cormier Jr., followed by Karina Kay. Hiram, go ahead. 1 minute, 30 seconds. Go ahead.
I second every word that previous speaker just said. I love how Gordo and Mark talk while people are speaking. So that proves that you don't care about anybody's voice. But the thing that I find that is funny is that you guys keep saying that in terms of looking for a city manager and in terms of waiting to make a decision, and it's the DA's job and all that old bullshit. It's not a matter of waiting for the facts, quote unquote, even though everybody knows the facts of this fucking case. It's a matter of initiating and sustaining a cover-up between you, the city council, and the city manager, who work hand in hand together, and the Pasadena Police Department and the LA Sheriff's Department to initiate yet another cover-up and yet another murder and assault.
Mr. Cormier, if you could stick to the subject matter.
I'm speaking on it, buddy.
That's not, the McLean case is not on our agenda. Thank you.
Listen here. It's never on your fucking agenda because you don't care about it. And you guys have the city manager covering up for you. That's my point. You work hand in hand with the city manager to alleviate the blood off of your hands, to wash it off. But as I told you before, if Pasadena is a city of roses, our blood is all over the petals, and there's not enough water in the world to wash the blood off your hands, and I don't give a fuck what you're talking about. You understand that?
Thank you, Mr. Cormier Jr. Your time has expired. Karina Kay.
Yes. My name's Karina. I'm a Pasadena resident and a member of Black Lives Matter Los Angeles. I'm speaking, I'm seconding the comments that were already said. The reason why we wouldn't care about the city manager's position if it didn't have a role in getting justice for Anthony McLean. We wouldn't care about the city manager's position if it wasn't pertinent to police accountability. And so, Cynthia, if you stay in that position, we're expecting you to hold your personnel accountable to not be the rabid police force that they are and to chase citizens down and kill them, okay? And if you're laughing because it's a closed session, so why don't you make it open to the public? Why don't you do that? So you don't have the political will, the moral will, the ethical will to hold that position accountable to doing what is right for the community. You don't have the will absolutely at all. And that's why we care about it. And that's why we're going to continue to raise the demands to fire the officers within the Pasadena Police Department, Edwin Duke Linden, Ronald Sereno, who murdered Anthony McLean. The city manager can do it, and you as a city council can hold that office, that position accountable to do it. And you lack the political will, the moral will, the ethical will. That's why nobody fucks with you. So fuck you.
Thank you, Ms. Kay. Next speaker.
Camille Lewis is not in the meeting. We'll move on to Alan Shea, who put in a speaker card late. Mr. Shea, go ahead. Star 6 to unmute.
Good afternoon, City Council members. As we continue this journey, one of the crucial things I hope that the City Council come to terms with is the city manager has the power to fire. Again, White versus City of Pasadena, where an officer was fired 3 times. 3 times, once by Human Resources, once by the city manager, and once by the police chief. And in each of those instances, that officer exercised her due process. Whether the city charter was amended or not in 1903 or 1901 or 1993, as the mayor indicated, the power still lies in the hands of the city manager to take charge. And the city has, or the community has asked that she revisit this case and be objective about it, because the video, the pictures that were released by the police department clearly show Anthony McClain had no gun. He had a cell phone that they didn't even refer to, and that in itself should be rectified so we don't look like we're covering up the police officers. We want to make sure our department, our police department, stand and look good, but we have to hold them accountable when they're wrong. That's all the community is asking for, and that's what your leadership should stand for. Thank you.
Thank you. That completes public comment on the closed session. We will now recess into closed session. If the council members can disconnect from this Zoom meeting link and connect to your closed session Zoom meeting link, that will be a preferred. Give it another 3 to 5 minutes to get that meeting set up. Thank you.